In this video, we are going to get into the split stack for Aspen. Split stack requires the Stacks 3 plugin, and if you have Stacks 3 and you have the split stack, you can make some really awesome stuff with Aspen. So let's dig into it. Right here we have an example page that I quickly put together. I'm using a Stacks page, and I have some really sparse example content right here. Now, we're going to use the split stack, which means we are going to create another part in the main site section, but we want it to look very different than this white area here. Because if I keep duplicating this content, we're gonna keep having the same white area here. And it doesn't really break up the page, it just looks like one long area. So that's why the split stack is created, is to give more interest to the page and break it up into sections. So right now I'm going to type in Aspen, and this is assuming you've installed the Aspen stack into your Stacks 3, and then I'm going to add it right here. So it creates a really clean stack area here. It says split start and split end. So now I'm going to duplicate this content, stick one here. I'm going to duplicate these cats too, and I'm going to stick that directly under here. So now if we preview, it's not looking like there's too much of a difference, but let's now start getting into the split stack settings over here. We can start by adding a, where it says background, we can start by giving it a totally black background. This can be a gradient. It's meant to do gradients out of the box. But when we do that, we notice, we've lost the ability to see the text here. This is why we have text colors. So I'm going to set this to white and take a look. So now we have a whole nother section here. Notice how it's kept the same width as the rest of the site. That's another benefit of using the split stack. It's completely splitting the page, but keeping the max site width for the content. But right now we have a problem where the padding on the top and the bottom is super, super thin. So let's now adjust that. So here we have inherit site padding. Let's turn that off. And let's add a top and bottom of 60. Now let's take a look. Much, much better. But now we're also seeing how over here in the main content area, we need more padding going on in the bottom there. We can adjust this over here by clicking on this stack and then adding some margin. Let's do 60 as well. All right, so already we're starting to see we're quickly getting this sectioned effect. So let's go over some other things that make the split stack special. For the desktop, we have 60 as the top and bottom padding. But when we go to manually adjust this, or to a mobile layout, we now are back to not having any padding here or padding on the sides. It's just kind of very rough. This is because the split stack offers two sets of padding. This is kind of key because you always typically want less padding on a mobile device. So now if I go across the board 30 pixels, top, bottom, left, and right, we now have something much more nicely framed. And that was pretty easy to come up with. Now you can also adjust right here. We have mobile break. And what this number is it says it's the pixel value from left to right. It says how big do we want this screen before we're switching the desktop padding, switching between desktop padding and mobile padding. So once it hits 770 pixels, we're going to switch to mobile padding. Also, we'll turn that off. You can also constrict the site width to be different in this container area. What I mean by that is here we have inherit site width. If we turn that off and we give it something like 500, you now see that the max site width for this container is going to be 500. This is really useful if you're trying to break up the feel of a page, and you may want like a image really large, but you want the text to be much more narrow below that. This is where max width constricting would be really helpful. We can also make, conversely, we can make this fairly large, even larger than the parent, not the parent, but the container above it, for a whole different kind of effect. And then we'll add back in our padding to the left and right because it was getting crazy on the sides. And then here we have that. But we can go back to inheriting the site width and go back to keeping the padding kind of sane. There we go. Oops, that's not doing it. Go like that. There we go. So that is the split stack. You can also, if you were to drag and drop an image into this area right here, you would get a nice background effect. Just to test that out real quick, I'm going to add just another cat picture I have laying around back there. Now, when you first add it, notice that it's not scaling. You can do enable scale image, and there we have the image scaling. And if you don't like that parallax kind of effect there, you can turn that off, and the cat will stay there. And then you can also dial in, how clear you want that cat to be. And you can also, at the same time, dial that cat opacity really, really low. So you're mixing gradients and you're mixing backgrounds, all to just create this layered effect. So now we have two decent looking sections already with just a few toggles, few control settings, and that's it. And that is what the split stack is all about.